Conquer Local.
It's really a breath of fresh air. Good times.
I help leaders go from anxiety to authority under pressure.
And then let's go and get it.
It's an ecosystem.
The hardest part here is going to be getting me to shut up on this one.
Conquer Local with Vendasta, hosted by Jeff Tomlin.
Welcome to the Conquer Local podcast. Our show features successful sales leaders, marketers, thought leaders, and entrepreneurs who will inspire you with their success stories. Each episode is packed with practical strategies as our guests share their secrets to achieving their dreams. Listen in to learn the highlights of their remarkable accomplishments and get tips to revamp, rework, and reimagine your business. Whether you're a small business owner, a marketer, or aspiring entrepreneur, the Conquer Local podcast is your ultimate guide to dominating your local market. Tune in now to take your business to the next level. I'm Jeff Tomlin, and on this episode, we're pleased to welcome Kasper Sierslev. Kasper is the Chief Commercial and Creative Officer at Zite and is an award-winning marketer and creative professional with a rich history working alongside major international brands like Apple, Lego, and Mars. His leadership extends to building and guiding in-house creative departments for esteemed organizations such as Maersk and George Jensen. From the startups to global giants, Kasper's career showcases remarkable versatility and adaptability in diverse business landscapes. As an accomplished author, Kasper has made significant contributions to the industry with his two best-selling books, Moving In-House and Win-Win-House, reflecting his deep insights into in-house marketing dynamics. With over 2 decades of experience in advertising, he's also worked as an illustrator and a storyboard artist. He's a frequent keynote speaker at marketing events, contributing significantly to the industry. Get ready, Conquerors, for Kasper Sierslev coming up next on this week's episode of the Conquer Local podcast. Kasper, hey, welcome to the Conquer Local podcast.
Hey.
Thanks so much for taking some time to join us and chat for a little bit. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? I mean, it's really nice talking to you and being here. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Right on. And now you're calling in the podcast from halfway around the world. You're over in Denmark right now.
Yeah, I'm in Copenhagen in Scandinavia, Denmark. So kind of far away from where you are at the moment.
Fantastic. Well, hey, why don't you kick us off and tell us a little bit about your journey here, especially your journey from traditional advertising into in-house marketing and maybe a little bit about what sparked the shift in your career.
Yeah, so I spent the first 15 years of my career working at a traditional advertising agency, moving up, working with a lot of car brands. I don't really know why. I just, that's one thing leading to another. But also, some great brands like Mars and Apple and so on. And then at one point, I ended up being kind of in the, I don't know what's called, a tech team. So me and my partner were thrown in at all the pitches we had to do. And we got in and we won a lot of them. But as soon as we won the pitch, we were on to the next thing. And I kind of missed following things through and actually being able to see how things turned out. And sometimes I think also the creative idea is not necessarily in the main campaign or in the film or whatever you're doing at the center, but sometimes it's on the edges. And I never got to do that. So at one point, I really got tired of everything. And then I had an old friend who said, at Maersk, which is this big container ship logistic company from Denmark, they are really looking for some new blood, so to speak. There's a new girl coming in as head of marketing, and she wanted to do something differently. So I said, well, didn't really hurt to talk to her. So I wrote her a note and she said, can you come in tomorrow? And I went there and she said, oh, that's great. Can you start on Monday? So I had to quit the other job, of course. And then, then I was at Maersk. And the thing with Maersk is you get sent around the world in the beginning just to know the business. And I went to Egypt and I went to India and the Philippines as well. And when I came back, she said, so what did you notice? And I said, I realized that we're doing a lot of the same things, all the different places. we're doing the same brochure for online booking in India and Egypt with 2 different agencies, and maybe there's something we should do about it. Maybe we should have some kind of team who could collect these things and maybe reuse them." And she said, "Oh, that's great. Can you do that? Can you build that in-house agency?" And this was in, I think, October or November or something like that. And she said, "Can you open 1st of February? And there are a few guys you can take from a PowerPoint team in Manila. See if you can go there and use any of them." And that was kind of the start of everything. So I went to the Philippines. I had to figure out how to run an in-house agency. I didn't know that, and I didn't really have anyone to ask. So I kind of made a lot of mistakes on that journey. But it worked, and I built this platform where you can have briefs in, and we started out, and I think the first Monday that we opened up, we had 65 campaign briefs for a team of 20 people. And there was big campaigns with social media and banners and so on. So we were swamped. And then we had to look at how we're doing this. And that's kind of where I started with all the processes and workflows. So I come from a creative background, and I really still see myself as the creative guy. But I just realized that if we were to have time to do the great creative stuff, we actually had to figure out a way to run the process, because we couldn't do back and forth and all these different variations all the time. So that's where I started drawing swim lanes and processes and so on. And after a couple of years, I switched job to something completely different, and what do you call it? Tech company, but it's always also an investment bank. Or they came from an investment bank and then developed into a fintech company. And when I started building the in-house agency there, because that was what I was recruiting for, I realized that 85-90% of the flows and processes were exactly the same. I mean, you don't have to reinvent the new way to create a social media post or a banner or something like that. So that was kind of a revelation to me that everything was actually the same, that you didn't have to reinvent the process. It's the same thing. And then you can add in the creativity and the different brands and how it looks and feels and everything. But that's in the first part. When you roll things out, translation, versioning is the same. But
that totally resonates, and for me, I'm not the process guy. But one thing I've learned in my career is that you can never get away from it. Like everything comes down, if you want to scale anything, any part of your business, it comes down to people, plan, and process. And so you can't get rid of, having to deal with and master your processes at some point. So that really resonates. You wrote a book on the topic now. I
actually wrote 2 books. So I started out after the bank, I went to a jewelry company, something completely different. And again, it was the same. And after that, I thought, okay, I got to tell someone about this, because everywhere I talked about it, people say, "Oh, that's new. We never heard about that." So I actually wrote a book called Moving In-House, how about to structure things and work with creativity in a structured way. And then we started the company that I'm in now, called Zite, where we built on-site agencies. And then we wrote a new book called the Win-Win-House in there.
Give us a couple of takeaways from either both or one of the books that you'd like to share with the audience.
I mean, I have a couple of quotes that I always like. It's not something from me. It's like the first one is from Chuck Close, who said, "Inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us go to work." And I always use that with my creative people, because I know so many creative people who are struggling with what do you call it? The doubt in themselves and everything, and they have to do different things, and they never know if inspiration will hit them. And I really think the more that I work with creativity, it's methods and processes and so on. So I really like that one, and that's what we try to put in the book. Try to figure out all the things that you can do. You can process everything that you have a method for, or process, or workflow, or ways of working, or whatever you call it. Then you can start creating your ideas, and it's just about creating a lot of ideas. So that's my that's my main
Yeah.
my main point. My main takeaway is that you can actually work with these processes, this structure, and then you get more time and you get more freedom for your creativity. So
Yeah.
it's really a mean to where I want to go.
I was just going to say, I'm curious, with all the advancements in AI over the last year, are there things that you would add to the book now, especially, being, process focused? Are there things that you'd add to the book now with all of these different advancements this last year?
There are, and that's why I'm actually writing on a new one at the moment. So
Right.
I mean, we're not anywhere near. I actually don't know where people are with AI. Everybody seems to be talking a lot. I haven't seen those great examples yet, but we're using AI for a lot of the things. For me, I mean, in the creative process, I always talk about getting shit done. Do a lot of ideas. It's really difficult to come up with 100 bad ideas in a row. So
Yeah,
if you develop 100 ideas,
I like
some of
that.
them gotta be decent. And if you share them with other people, you get to the next level, and then you have something okay that you can work from. And that's where we're using AI at the moment, is getting to that first 50%, giving us those brainstorm ideas that we were going to do anyway. So I think that's I really that I would have put in. This is a way that you can work with creativity and AI. So it's very much in the wordings and in the brainstorming process, I think, at the moment. For me, the best creativity is actually where you hit, you solve the human problem behind the business problem.
Nice.
So if you have that insight into how people see things, or all the weird thing that you notice that you can actually use. I always use this example that people who don't have a car, they always tend to slam the door too hard.
Yeah.
But all these small things that you notice, I think it's going to be difficult for AI for the next 2, 3, 4 years. I don't know, to actually use that. But it's really good at coming up with ways to express it or get me started on something. So yeah,
Casper, your
that's where
creative
I think it's
your
going.
creative process of get shit done is the first creative process. Now I can understand clearly, and I like that a lot. Are there common mistakes that you see that when people are building their in-house teams that are sort of common mistakes that you see companies making?
Yeah. So, I mean, normally when we come in, sometimes we take over an existing team and we can normally optimize it by 30 to 40%. And that's because they don't, I mean, at agencies, it's really not a good business to run an agency, to be quite fair. We're selling the hours and we're only taking a small profit. So at least here in Scandinavia, it's not it's not a good deal. So, but what we learned from that is to optimize the processes again, the flows, actually having project managers or account managers taking care of that. And what we see a lot is that they have not necessarily an entire in-house team. They have creative people or doers within the marketing team, and they are running around and they say, oh, it's so easy, I can just stand next to your screen, I can just do this and that. So they don't really pull out and come back with a creative idea or a new input. And they also let the creative people be their own project managers or process managers and so on. So they answer emails, they get disturbed all the time by emails and phone calls, and it's difficult to get in the zone when you're getting disturbed all the time by notifications and so that's the really where we can optimize, and you can optimize in a heartbeat, is by letting the creative people be creative and take them out of the workflow. Don't swamp them in any meetings and so on. They don't need to know things until they're actually working on it. That's the
Yeah.
most common mistake we see, actually.
Yeah, I like that. Um, and I want to make sure I get this right. Your title at Zite is you're the chief commercial officer. Um, you've mentioned balancing in-house and external teams a bit, and I wanted to dig into that a little bit. Like, how do you decide which services you're going to do in-house and which services you're going to use external teams for, and does it matter too much?
Yeah, it matters a lot. So when we look at it, we normally don't go for the top tier. I mean, the really creative work, we always recommend that you buy at not a full house, what do you call it, a full service agency, but finding a really creative boutique or something like that. Because people who work with a lot of different brands all the time, get a lot of input. They're really good at doing the really creative stuff or the specialist tasks. So normally we don't recommend to take that in house. It's also difficult to bring in those rock stars
Yeah.
creative
Yeah.
people to your small in-house team. And if you manage to bring them in, you will drain them. They will get bored, and they won't do what you want them to do. So we recommend to leave the top tier out of the equation and let somebody else do that. But as soon as you get to you know the day-to-day creative stuff where you have the playing field drawn up, you know what to do. You're not doing the new brand campaign, but you're doing the product campaign because you know the products and so on. That makes a lot of sense. So the content, the products launch and so on. And then we also look at the bottom of the house, so to speak,
Yeah.
the production side, where it makes a lot of sense if you're a big company with a lot of complexity, different languages, versioning, and so on, to look for offshore or look for tools in that area. So you only take the roles that make sense, because it's a lot easier when you have someone in there who knows the product, especially when it's complicated. I mean, cars we can all do, or chewing gum, but as soon as you get to something like investment banking, or I don't know, some industrial product where you actually need to know a lot, it takes a lot of time to teach the creative agent, the external creative agency, all the things you want them to know. That's what you can do with the in-house team. But then the in-house team has the paradox of proximity. So when you're too close to things, it's hard to see yourself from the outside. It's hard to have that outside in perspective.
Right.
So it's a battle all the time. What we're doing is we have a travel team between our agencies that we bring in just for 2 days, one day, or a couple of hours to just kick things up and inspire. But then we have the in-house team working with it. And it doesn't have to be like our model. You can call a really great creative team and just ask them to come in and do ideas, and then take it from there. So you don't need to buy everything. That's
Yeah.
that's our model. That's
Yeah.
how we see things work really well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Say, you were alluding to, once you have the house built, your teams can get to work and they focus and they know what to do. Give me some of your top tips for optimizing processes for an in-house team.
The first thing is actually figuring out the services that you want to do. I mean, I know it sounds really boring, but let me just explain. So
Yeah.
figuring out what kind of things do you want to do with your in-house team. Then look at how would it be great to do them. Just note down all the bits and pieces in that process, from getting a request. Should you have a tool that you can actually fill in a form on a website or something like that, or should people call you or come in or something like that? It doesn't really matter, but you have that briefing form for every kind of process that you're doing. So if you're doing a lot of case videos, or you're doing website optimization, note down all the steps. I think we have around 38 different processes. A lot of them have the same kind of steps, but just knowing what to do really makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
I actually use this example sometimes. I used to play bass, in back
Saw
when I
that
was
back
young, and I
there.
used to play. Yeah.
It looks nice.
An old double bass.
Yeah.
And I used to play at this jazz club where we had really great. I'm not that good. We had really great musicians coming in, sitting in every Thursday night,
Mhm.
and I was playing like together with the drummer. We were the backing band, and then great people came in, and we kind of knew the songs. So it's kind of back to the processes. We knew what we were going to play, and then they could jam on top of it because we knew the standards, so to speak. And I like that, your parallel, so to speak, because that's what your in-house team should do. They should know the processes, the workflows, and then it's much easier to say, oh, this is kind of this workflow we take down here. So that's the first thing we do. We really map the workflows, structure things, all the boring stuff.
I really think, organizations don't spend enough time on the processes, because, as you start scaling, almost every aspect of the business needs processes. And if you don't have them in place and this repeatability in your business, it gets really, really hard to scale.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, you often see it when you bring a new team in. The first half year, 8 months, everything's great. People are working. They're not doing what they're good at, but everything is just hunky-dory and you're working and everything's good. Then you start to lose that momentum and people are doing the wrong things at the wrong time. And you get really, you get swamped. You have people doing the same things, 2 places and so on. And that's where you need it, because it's great at a startup that everything just you're running and you are enthusiastic about everything. But when you scale and when you get to that point, you will get in trouble if you don't, if you don't know what you're supposed to do, and who's doing what at the time.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite story or anecdote about Kasper, you've done a lot of things in your career, clearly, and now, authored a couple books on it and seen and done a lot of things. Do you have a favorite story or anecdote where you had an amazing outcome and you can attribute some of that to the process and the way that you approach things?
Yeah, I actually have one. But it's not about the process, actually. It's more like being in-house and being able to see things in a different way. So back when I was working at George Jensen, this jewelry company, we've just built a new website, and it's very Scandinavian, pale looking, no colors or something like that. And we have had a British head of e-com, and he came down and said, yeah, guys, this is too Scandinavian. People, they don't buy any rings. They can't find the buy button. We need to change the color to something more that's popping more. And we said, it can't be the problem with the color on the button and so on. So normally, I mean, if you're an agency, you would just do as you're told, I guess.
Yeah.
But we had the time and we had the possibility to actually go up and talk to some of the guys who are just sitting upstairs and say, can you show us something on this? And he said, yeah, look here, all the guys, they're coming in here, they go to the product page, they find a ring, they click on it, they go to the product page itself, and then they click buy, and they click buy, and they click buy, and then they realize there's this small drop down on top of the buy button where you have to select the ring size. So when you click on that, you get these 16 sizes for rings, finger rings. And then there was these 10 seconds where everything just froze, the mouse was still, and then they left. And then we said, it's not the problem with the color. They found the buy button. They found it 3 times. They clicked on it. The problem is that nobody knows the size of their girlfriend's ring finger or the ring they need. So let's do something different. And then we actually sat down and talked about it, and we developed this small app where you could steal a ring or borrow a ring from your loved one and put it on the screen, and you could see the size. And and that was basically it. Very, very simple to do. It didn't cost a lot.
Very cool.
But the best part was we did a small film. We didn't have any money. It wasn't in the budget to do this. So we did it almost ourselves, standing there with metal rulers in the stores to make sure that screen size matches and so on. And then we did the small film just of a guy borrowing a ring from his loved one. And we put it on our Instagram, and then it kind of exploded because all the girls were just tagging their husbands and say, look, Thomas, this is something for you. Or maybe this is what you need or something like that. So, and I think for me, it's a great example of being in-house, being close to business, being able to stop things that doesn't make sense and look at that, the human problem. It's not a technical problem. It's not the color of the button. It's actually something that we can all relate to.
I can't tell you how many times. So I've seen not only other companies, but I've seen ourselves internally stop short in the optimization process. Where oftentimes there's one thing, if you keep digging, can make a real dramatic impact on the ultimate success of the workflow that you're trying to create or the campaign that you're running. Yeah, that's a great story. I love that. If you had you had a couple of takeaways for the audience, what would they be?
I mean, the first one is if you're a creative guy, I would start looking at a structure for coming up with ideas. There are a lot of great methods to that. So that's for the creative people. It's demystifying the inspiration part. I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't look for inspiration. It's just what I can see is if you sit down, put your phone away, shut your computer, put out a piece of paper, because if it works with a blank ink marker, I know I'm so old fashioned, but if it works with a black ink marker on a white piece of paper and you can see that this is a great idea, it will look amazing when you bring in photographers, AI, whatever, industrial light and magic, and do everything. So that's for the creative people. Start doing those 100 ideas and you will do great stuff. The rest is if you're building an in-house agency, I think the next thing would be look at what the agencies are doing. Look at those flows, having the project managers or task managers handling things. Have the specialists do what they do best, but don't force them into too many meetings. Don't swamp them in background knowledge and so on. And don't make them do, all the things that they're not good at. Then look at, maybe you have production people or you have activation people. Try to set it up like a flow, like most agencies would actually do. That's why I see most in-house agencies fail. So, and then the last one I think would be, look for the human problem. Dig a bit deeper. If something strikes you as that can't be right, then it's probably not. So back to the ring sizer idea, I would say, it's okay to doubt things because, that's where you find the great stuff sometimes.
Yeah, love it. I think we have a giveaway or a landing page that's been created too, so that people can access your ebook.
Yeah, I put the entire book up on a page for you. So you can have it as a PDF, and you can just download. Yeah, it's completely free. There's no strings attached at all. You don't even have to fill in your name or number or something like that.
That's awesome, and we'll put the link underneath the episode. Yeah. Kasper, it's been an absolute pleasure spending a few minutes with you and chatting about the creative teams. If people wanted to continue the conversation and get a hold of you, how do they reach you?
They can reach me at zite.agency, or they can go to the book called Win-Win-House, win-win-house.com, and they can. I just had it here, and they can. They can read more about the book, and they can also find us there. So
awesome, Kasper! It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking time out of at the end of your very busy day out in Copenhagen.
No, I find inspiration in talking to people like you. So it's really been a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and likewise from our end. I hope that we can do this again sometime down the future. You can come back and share more anecdotes with us. Pleasure getting to know you a little bit, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
You're a really interesting guy, and great lessons and anecdotes there. And the first takeaway is that explaining creativity through structure. I liked how Kasper said that creativity can be structured and optimized. By developing processes and workflows, creatives can enhance productivity and generate a multitude of ideas using tools like AI. This encourages creative individuals to explore structured approaches to their work. And I like how he said, develop 100 ideas, and out of 100 ideas, some of them have to be decent, right? The second takeaway is to build an effective in-house agency. Kasper said it's important to understand specialist roles within the agency. He advises against overwhelming creatives with unnecessary meetings and tasks outside their expertise. Building an in-house agency should involve optimizing processes and recognizing the strengths of each team member to ensure efficiency and creativity. If you've enjoyed Kasper's episode discussing in-house marketing, keep the conversation going and revisit some of our older episodes from the archives. Check out episode 630, Engaging Customers Through Compelling Content with Rish Bhandari, or episode 616, The Evolution of B2B Content Marketing with Edward Permalis. Until next time, I'm Jeff Tomlin. Get out there and be awesome.
You've been listening to the Conquer Local podcast presented by Vendasta. Tune in next week for a new episode. Guest discovery and produced by Suleiman Adam. Marketing by Rory Lawford, Brandon Moore, and Suleiman Adam. Executive producers Brendan King, Jeff Tomlin, and Suleiman Adam. Recorded at Vendasta headquarters on the Canadian Prairies.